Oh my God, Bitcoin is crashing. What are we going to do? It's December 18th, and Bitcoin's down to like 99,000, down from like a peak of like 108. These are prices we haven't seen since like, well, a week ago Wednesday. The world is ending with a 5% drop. Right. Yeah, no, everything seemed to be doing decently. And then the Fed came out and said they were cutting 25 basis points for interest rates, which everybody expected. And yet when they announce it, everybody panics. There's a little more to that. I mean, obviously the Fed talked about having less cuts next year and some of their outlooks on the future kind of spook markets and whatnot, but in the end, it's not that big of a thing. And yet it kind of sent a bunch of assets and equities down, including Bitcoin. Bitcoin's pretty volatile. It's got about 3 times the volatility of the S&P 500. So anyway, things aren't that bad, but yeah, it's a good time to buy if people are wondering, oh man, I didn't get a chance to get into Bitcoin, before it hit 100,000, before it hit 0.1 million. Well, now you can. Are you? Or are you just going to sit there and watch it go back over 100? So one of the interesting things coming up, 2 things actually, that are kind of pointing to the possibility of a drop coming January, is what some people term the Santa rally. And the last 2 cycles, I don't even remember what 2012 was. I don't really pay attention to the end of the first cycle, but in 2016 and 2020, so the Christmas day of the halving year, which 2024, this will be another one. The next few days to a couple weeks right after Christmas, Bitcoin in particularly tends to skyrocket, tends to go up pretty quickly, pretty fast. What some crypto Twitter people don't actually post is what January looks like. And in both those years, there was a heavy correction. Each of them had a good 20 or 25% drop in the year when things go up 600% to 1,000% to whatever the cycles went up, which is normal. We expect that in this cycle. If we get a really good parabolic run, we expect multiple drops of 20% or higher. But my point is, if you get the Santa rally, we should expect Bitcoin to jump pretty quickly at the end of the year. I'm thinking maybe 120. I don't know. Depends on how low this dip goes. And then sometime in January, you kind of expect a pullback. That kind of coincides with another thing when you talk about global M2, the money supply. Raoul Pal has a really good chart that he sends out every once in a while, which is the M2 global supply with a 10 to 12 week lead period, which tends to track Bitcoin quite well. And if you believe that chart, which is more than just technical analysis, that's more of a fundamental thing, more money that comes in the markets and liquid, basically cheap money gets inflows into assets, you expect Bitcoin to be one of those to profit from or to benefit from that. You would expect like a mid-January to late January drop. So from all aspects, whether you're a believer of the 4-year cycle still being a thing or not, everything seems to be pointing to that happening again. I don't plan to sell. You shouldn't plan to sell. It'll be a time when people that panic will sell, and then day traders will try to time the market. More of them will lose Bitcoin than make Bitcoin on those trades. But my point is that could very likely happen, which could be another time to, if you've been on the sidelines waiting for 60,000 Bitcoin, which may never come, if you get 80,000 Bitcoin, that's your time to pull the trigger. All right. In other news, I'm skipping the gym today. I know, don't hate me. I actually don't feel like it's skipping a day. So when my gym buddy was out for a couple weeks, I didn't have the best splits because I still didn't feel confident on back and shoulders. Like the mind muscle connection, like when I'm doing biceps, triceps, quads, hamstrings, calves, like I know when I'm working. I can feel it. When I isolate it, I know I'm doing it right. My joints don't hurt. Chest to some degree, to a large degree, feels the same way. Occasionally I feel like I'm doing something wrong and the shoulder hurts. But when it comes to back and shoulders, it feels like I'm just throwing weight around. Like I don't actually feel the right spots. I don't feel like I'm doing it right. And in fact, yesterday when I did, when I worked out back, my buddy wasn't able to go. And so I wasn't sure I was doing all the form right and everything. And my elbow started hurting. Lowered the weight and it's still hurting. So I'm like, all right, I got to kick that exercise. It was just kind of a crap show. So I still need a little bit of help. And he's been really helpful. I mean, he's kind of, I guess you can call him my trainer. He's just, helping me out, making sure I'm doing the form right, helping me understand other exercises. Especially it'll be helpful in January because the gym gets even busier than it is sometimes that, we're going now. It'll be nice if we had planned to do something. He knows other motions, other movements we can do to work out that muscle group. But getting back on track, my main point is I was doing splits on like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday because I wasn't working out back and shoulders. Now that I am, I put Wednesdays back in, and that was a day we were going to be doing leg day. And the legs are really the only thing that's pretty decent. Like it's definitely the easiest for me to work out legs, and it's the overdeveloped part of my body right now. Like I got a soft, soggy midsection that's going to be dieting mostly, and then my upper body, I'm happy with it, but obviously I want it bigger. Who doesn't go to the gym not wanting bigger muscles, right? But I'm working on that. But my legs are definitely pumped. A lot of that's from 20 years of like my favorite cardio has been mountain biking, and I've been doing that a lot, and genetics for my calves, a whole bunch of reasons. My legs are good. Plus, when you weigh 300 pounds, every day is kind of a leg day, if we're honest. So skipping that, I can always add that into another day because it's a pretty quick 3 or 4 exercises to get in for leg day. I can squeeze that in somewhere else. So before you tell me I shouldn't skip gym day, I'm skipping gym day and I'm skipping leg day. But I'll probably work it in another time. So don't hate me on that. All right. Last thing I was just going to mention is I started digging into some of this quantum computing stuff, and it's really cool what Google's doing. Google released that Willow quantum computing. I started watching a few podcasts. I read a paper on it. Definitely not anywhere near an expert on it, but I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable in understanding what it is. And there's a lot of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt on crypto Twitter. I mean, everywhere on there, everybody's panicking, and it seems to be really misplaced, like most FUD. Google set a benchmark for what they call quantum computing, and they hit their own benchmark. So it's kind of like they're saying they can do X, Y, and Z, but even they admit there's no application for this yet. It's so early, but it is at least sparking some discussion for people like me that don't know enough about it, of what some of the dangers could be years from now, and what the community is trying to do to kind of prepare for that inevitability, and what we can do to secure our coins. Really interesting stuff. Learning a lot about public key versus private key versus some of the old addresses pre-2012. A little bit more details on why you should not reuse addresses, which seems to be better worded. You should not reuse addresses if you're spending from them, but if you only use an address to basically move money into, if you've never spent any Bitcoin out of that address, the public key has not been broadcasted, so it seems like that's the same thing as not reusing addresses. Seems like a couple simple fixes too. If you have problems with reusing addresses, you can move everything to a new one and start securing your stuff. I don't need to get in the weeds of it because I'm still learning about it myself, but interesting stuff. So we're living in some interesting times where technology is just exponentially growing. All right, I'll try to have an update tomorrow. It might not be until Friday. Things are kind of busy with everything I got going on, but yeah, hope you guys are all having a good week, and keep stacking sats, right? Good night.